It is a different looking race than it was just 24 hours ago. Actually, literally here on the show at 10:18 yesterday, it looked a lot different. Just before Elizabeth Warren dropped out, she was on exclusively with MSNBC's Rachel Maddow, as you know, overnight. And it's not a given that she's going to endorse, right, if she endorses at all. But here's what she said about the person Bernie Sanders is running against. Watch.
He's a decent guy. I mean, and I mean that in the good of decency. And it comes through in pretty much everything he does.
You have disagreements with him on a number of core policy issues, though.
Yep. And agreements on a number of core policy issues.
That is a lot of praise for Joe Biden from Elizabeth Warren there. Does that make you nervous that she might end up backing him?
No, I've said he's a decent person. Everyone who's met Joe Biden thinks he's a warm, decent person. So I think she's just speaking the truth. But the question is on policies. I mean, there are philosophical differences.
And as she points out, philosophical agreements as well.
But I think on the big issues, Senator Sanders is for Medicare for all, as was Senator Warren. Vice President Biden isn't for that. Senator Sanders is for free public college. He's for forgiving student loans. He's for universal child care. He's for ending endless wars. And Senator Warren had many of the similar proposals. I think that we ought to have this debate. It's really a debate about, do we want a progressive future for the party or more incrementalism?
It seems as though that debate is upon us. I mean, we're in that debate now. And speaking of the debates, the next one I think is in about a week and a half. And that'll be interesting, as it'll be a much, much, much smaller stage. When you talk about debates, you can't help but think of some of those moments, some of those clashes between Senator Warren and Senator Sanders, frankly. And the tension seems to still be there around some Sanders supporters. Here's a little bit more of sort of the rhetoric discussion that was had on that front.
We are responsible for the people who claim to be our supporters and do really threatening, ugly, dangerous things for other
And it's a particular problem with Sanders' supporters.
It is.
Have you ever talked with Senator Sanders about that?
I have. It was short. But, yeah, we've talked about it. But I think it's a real problem.
Did Senator Sanders, in your view, mishandle some of that issue? And I'm not just talking about this week, but I'm talking about when his rivals were going after him for this.
He's been very clear. He said he's been appalled by some of the online rhetoric, that disagreement should be civil, that anything that is extreme is actually hurting the campaign and doesn't reflect his values. And when some people did snake eyes against Warren online, you can see my tweets. I said that is absolutely unacceptable. Senator Warren is an intellectual giant. She's a leader of the progressive movement. She's been an ally of Senator Sanders in some of the toughest fights and condemned it in the harshest terms. So I will continue to do that, and the senator will continue to do that.
We're going to talk about this more later in the show, but a race that started with a lot of discussion about diversity is now seeming to be coming to a head with two white men, right, battling it out for the nomination. Would you advise Senator Sanders to pick a woman as his running mate if he gets the nomination?
Absolutely. I think that's... Well, that's maybe Senator Warren. I mean, I've said Senator Warren would be an outstanding choice. There'll be other outstanding choices. But, Hallie, when I was growing up in Pennsylvania, the idea that we would have 3 African Americans running, 5 women, all these Asian Americans running for president, I would never have dreamed that. So we've come a long way. Look, Vice President Biden was a 2-term vice president. Senator Sanders was the runner-up last time. They had a lot of advantages going in. But what they suggest is in the future, we're going to have women, people of color become the nominees and become president.
Very quick.